Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy of Sweetfish Media. I've got with me today Ronak Patel, CEO of Sunflower Lab. Ronak, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I am doing well. The sun is shining. I cannot complain. And so I'm really excited. You're going to be talking to us today about overcoming startup uncertainty, which is, super important, super valuable. I live in Austin, which has a huge startup scene. And so I know there's going to be a lot of our listeners that are going to get a lot out of the sort of bullet pointed things that you and I plan to cover today. But before we get to all of that, I'd like you to take just a couple minutes and give us some background on your experience and what you guys are up to today at Sunflower Lab.
Sure. So my role at Sunflower Lab is CEO. Been in the technology field for more than 20 years. I have played the different roles throughout the different organizations before even a Sunflower Lab. And since 2010, we started a Sunflower Lab and kind of continuously growing our company. We started with the 2 people, and now we are 75 plus members in our organizations, and we are kind of continuously growing and becoming the global organization. From the role perspective, and beside my titles, I have kind of wearing multiple hats in my experience from the different roles is concerns. And kind of it gives me the experience from the various positions and different perspective. When I'm leading as a company, as a CEO, I can see different roles in my organizations and how that could be better in that particular role. So it kind of giving me the unique perspective from my mind as well. I consider myself as an entrepreneur and technologist at heart, and kind of trying to solve this problem in the different world problems with the technology, and kind of keep looking away to make this world better every day.
I love it. I love the term technologist. It makes me happy. I don't hear many people refer to themselves as that, especially, folks at the level of the company that you are, being the CEO, but having sort of more of this focus on what it is that you actually do for the organization. So we're going to cover overcoming startup uncertainty just in general for folks who are in that space and in that position right now. And then we'll sort of tie it into what that looked like for Sunflower. But could you just really quick give us an sort of overarching idea of some of the ways that folks can overcome that uncertainty in general?
Yeah, sure. So any startup they have the things in their mind. So everything starts with an idea, and everyone's want to kind of find a model which can be repeatable and scalable. That's every startup is looking for, and kind of grow the company from there. There is the problems I'm seeing, because when the uncertainty is a very big part of any startup. There is no startup where everything, right? That is not the case. And the second things, one needs to learn how to stay comfortable with the uncomfortable situations. So that's other things. And how do we overcome that? All these uncertainties one is facing from day one. So as examples, you're starting a startup. Now, you have many questions in the different areas. Either is a sales and marketing, what you should be having the strategy, the inbound strategy versus outbound marketing strategy or sales strategy. You also have to find a way, build a team who can deliver that, how you do that one. Your contract need to be negotiated. Many of the different things comes into play when you are starting because everything's need to be defined at that point. So the way I will say that is the 5 things I will focus on. First thing, I would say find the differences. Don't be just jump on the bandwagon and say, yep, I'm going to do the same things one is doing, or maybe I have the very small differences and say, that's my differences. You need to think deeper and kind of clearly find out who you are and whom you can serve. Don't try to serve everyone. That is nothing you're trying to serve everyone will work. You need to be very precise. Who will be your customer audience? Who will be your target audience? If you are selling the product, is your product is a right fit for the market, right? I think, or the services. There are a different way you can be serving as a service business. You need to find out very categorically that who would be your customer, what the difference you are coming or bringing to them, your product or services. So first thing, find the differences. Second one, I would say is a very important where many of the startup folks missing is focus on a higher impacting work items. Because as I said, you have so many things on your plate, right? Things need to be done. Now, focusing on the wrong work items will not lead you to the next step. So always find out what will make your needle move. Always work on those items as a high priority. You kind of make a backlog of work items, but focus on a high impacting work item. In my examples, I will say, well, I need to find out how I can reach out to my client and what my message should be. And the second one is a work item. Once the client is in, how should I negotiate my contract? Well, first I need to get my customers, right? So that's the negotiating the contract and meeting the lawyers and kind of defining a contract. It's become the secondary. If the client is ready to ink the contract, I may give them a much better discount to get it started, right? So that's my focus, is my high impacting work items. So prioritization is a very key. The third one, I would say execution is a key. So when you kind of convince someone that this is the service or product, they should be using it, well, then everything's boiled down to be, if it's the services, execution is a key. If you are building a product, how you build this product is a key, because the product should be meeting those criteria. And at that time, you kind of sold it, right? Either service or product. People is going to use it. And you need to find out the right people's at the right place to make it happen. And that's actually my fourth point is, which is putting the right people at the right place. Because as the organization start from 1 or 2 people to multiple people, you keep finding the right people's, find out their strength and say, this person can take care of this one and I can trust them one. So delegation is a very important. Many of the founders are the control freak. They do not want anybody else to do it. And they kind of keep doing the same things. And they always think that I can do better. Well, they're right. But at the same time, in order to scale and finding the right people in your organization, you need to trust them. You need to delegate them. Let them fail. They will learn from it. But they are part of your team, which is hard to digest because they say, I don't want to be failed. Well, you need to be in the smaller scale. In order to grow bigger, you have to trust people and grow your team. So that's the fourth item. The fifth one, I always say the retrospect, right? You cannot plan everything in the future. So I think the idea is learn and adjust. You try for 1 quarter, you do not know how the thing's gonna work out. You kind of look back and say, what could I have done differently than what I'm doing right now? So quickly learn that from that, work with your teams and adjust that. Do not say you need to be very adaptive. The startup will fail if you're not adaptive. You need to be kind of adjusting yourself every day. And it kind of, as the things comes, you make a plan for your quarters. Every end of the quarters, what we do is kind of look back and say, does it work? It may or may not work, but don't shy away with the trying new ideas and say, yep, this is, it's some time. We see this like startups, when things work partially, they're afraid to even change it more because they say it started working. You need to even try more and make sure that you find out the right tunes. Like you need to keep tuning it and find out the right adjustment. So those are the 5 things I see is a very important for any organizations to do that. So, and it kind of helping any startup to overcome this uncertainty. More you do it, you will kind of get more certainty, get the more clarity, and it's just a matter of time. You need to keep working toward it.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, it's just a matter of, if I'm understanding you correctly, of just not putting the cart before the horse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that is what causes a lot of these businesses to fail. You get so excited. I'm guilty of it in my personal life, right? In my professional life, you get so excited about the big idea, and maybe even about the impact that idea might have, that the idea of prioritizing it one thing at a time, a lot of us don't have the patience for that. And so it's really key that you point out that what folks need to do is start with saying, hey, what has to happen right now first before this thing actually has to be figured out, and just letting yourself do that one thing at a time. It's something I read. Serena Williams said that she, in high pressure situations, focuses on one point at a time. That's a lot like what you're talking about. Just like, what snackable, accomplishable thing can we put first, and then next, and then next, and then next, which is easier said than done, especially when it's a 2-person team like you guys started out with. So talk a little bit about what that delegation looks like in those early stages, and how you guys were able to keep it in perspective when your idea is big and when you are looking to grow into something impactful.
Yeah, sure. So Sunflower Lab, we saw in the market, that was a clear vacuum where there are companies we have seen work with the corporate level client, and they were doing great. But at the same time, small to medium sized businesses did not have a great IT partners. Neither the startup had. So we see that that's the startup or the small to mid-sized companies may not be able to get the right talent when they wanted to start or spin off a new project. The corporate companies, they have their own teams, and they can get a lot of consultants and get the work done. So we saw that's exactly the problem, is how we can be delivered our solution. So we started as a 2-people team where our first application, we kind of coded ourselves, like we were kind of working full time, and on a part time we are doing and building it out the software for first client. The quality was a key, so it took much more time than what we expected because we are working in a part time. But we knew exactly that what would it take to create the great software. Immediately we figured it out. Well, this is not a one company. There is thousands of companies out there looking for the same kind of the help. Then we kind of say, well, we know how to do it ourselves. Now we're going to find someone like exactly with the high engineering practices, the great engineers. We kind of start hiring them and kind of delegating the work and started building the one small team. The idea wasn't to running the 10 projects at the same time. Mm-hmm. The idea was, I need to find one customer who needs to build one great product, and let's build one team at a time. So now we have 6 or 7 people. We make it happen. Now we learn from it. We adjust it to it. Now we're saying, well, now we can do the 2 projects at the same time. Now myself and my partner kind of split off from the execution point and say, well, I'm going to manage one project. You are managing the other one. Now we are a team of like our company's managing the 2 projects. Immediately we say, well, we need the better sales, marketing, and branding, because in the sense of like, how do the other people know that we are even existing? So I kind of move away myself from executions to moving through the sales, and probably from, I would say, more on a growth, right? Engaging the people who are having exactly the problems which we can solve it, mm-hmm. engaging them, finding the problems and helping them with the solutions, helping them with the strategy and a roadmap. So we kind of like keep hiring more people, and every quarters. And since then, we kind of keep finding it out, right? That what I'm doing can be replaced by somebody else. And I'm going to find something new to do it. And kind of I'm feel comfortable that this is what I can do, and finding the next people or someone can help me. And the other things, great things we have seen, when we are hiring the great people, they comes and do better than what we used to do. Because we don't want to hire great people and say, this is what you do. Because then that's no point of hiring the great people, because they're gonna not agreeing with you and say, well, this is the better way. And we say, yep, let's do it. We trust you. We delegate with that work to you. So that's the kind of a secret of building the great company.
Today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing. Delphix, a big data platform, had hired an agency to manage their Google ads a few years ago, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted to see. Being such a technical B2B solution, they set out to find a team that could take on their challenge. After countless proposals, they found the perfect fit: Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. In just 1 week after launching Directive's campaigns, Delphix saw their lead volume double and their cost per lead drop by 60%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah. No, it sounds like growth through a diversity of perspectives, and that you guys were so intentional about that is a big deal. And it sort of sounds like when you talk about taking, one team for one project and then another team for another project, that feeds into this idea that we talked about offline of fueling growth through a diverse customer base. So you're not pigeonholing yourself. And so it's, like I said, it's intentional. You're taking smart people and applying them to the problem, and not always assuming that the problem is going to be without nuance from one customer to the next. Dig into that a little bit as far as, what other startups looking to overcome uncertainty, how they can apply that idea in particular.
Sure. So diversification is a key. The one thing when we started as a mobile applications development company. That was our core strength. Both of the founders had a great expertise from the back end and the web application. So when we saw that when we are going to the enterprise level client, they don't only have one problem, which is the mobile application. They need to build a solution, which needing the web application. So we say, well, we are offering that too. So we started immediately increase our offering. We saw the market trend where the hybrid applications in a mobile platform becoming popular. It has its own cost advantage, build once and deploy to the multiple platform. We started building our own team to providing that services. We also observed that the world of IoT, Internet of Things, we kind of trained a few engineers on that one and kind of creating a team who can deliver on the IoT project. Same things with the Alexa and Google Voice Assistant. So we have the engineers having that technology skills, the cloud computing. So whatever it came to us, we kind of increase the expertise where our customer doesn't need to go to the multiple service provider for that entire solution. So what we say is, in order to provide the solution is a one place stop where you comes to us and we'll take care everything what it needs for you to build out the solution. So diversifications in technology is a key for us. We have seen many of our competitors only do one thing, and that doesn't really solve the business problem. We identify that problem, we kind of implemented that, and now we are kind of getting the clientele who's looking at the entire solution. Second thing is the diversification from the client base. We work with the many different verticals, the manufacturing, the insurance, the healthcare, telecommunications, university softwares. So we don't want to kind of stereotype ourselves with we can solve only one problem. We are hiring the best engineers and we can solve any problem. And that trust is a key, not what you have done, but in ability to solve the problems. And that's the one is driving up the customer satisfaction.
Yeah, it's really spot on to what a lot of the successful thought leadership talks about. I think Peter Thiel writes about building a platform versus an application. And that's exactly what you just described. So then the value in what you offer is less about the application and more about the implications, right?
Yes.
What problems it's solving in people's lives and business. And you're right, when startups get that right, that's when they stick around. And that's what you guys looks like sort of caught on to pretty early. One more thing I want to hear from you about that has to do with Sunflower in particular, and you've kind of touched on it, but just sort of tie together for me when you guys were thinking about what sets you apart, because I know you said that was one of the 5 bullet points as far as how to get rid of uncertainty. When you guys were looking at what makes you different and what sets you apart from what exists in the space, what sort of things stuck out? And what do you think gave you guys or gives you guys an edge when it comes to that?
Sure. So first one, the building a solution, not a software. We are a company who's building the solution. And if our solution need to be having the entire ecosystem in a one way, we are not just building the pieces. The solution should be solving the problem which our customer is facing. So that's the number one. The second thing is the user interface of our software are a key differentiator. We have seen so many software miss the one common thing, which is users, the softwares are unusable. They are not really keeping that customer in their mind while they're designing the software. So what we say is a user-centric design. We keep that in the user in the middle or in a center when we are designing the software. Third one is the quality. It needs to be a high-end engineering practices need to be adopted and implemented to build out the high-quality software. That is a key differentiators. We take over many failed projects and we see why exactly they failed the project too, because they just started building it out as software and cranking it out as software. So that's the third one. And the fourth one is the global team. So we are keep finding the right talent from any locations. We've been like 3 locations for a Sunflower Lab. And we are more like like finding from any locations, we are finding the right peoples. They can be a part of our team. So those are the key differentiation, which is kind of providing us a unique space in the market.
I love it. I love it all. It speaks to my heart. I'm a startup girl, like I said, here in Austin, and I love to be able to have you here and to talk about those things that are valuable to those folks who are starting out and just trying to overcome that uncertainty that you talked about. So before I let you go, a couple things. Anything you would say to anybody who, is looking to dip their toe in the water and has still got a little bit of trepidation that you'd want to leave them with? And then once you've done that, let folks know, because this is interesting stuff. And like I said, you guys are putting out a lot of content in terms of thought leadership that I think is really helpful. Let folks know how they can get in contact with you or connect with you as well.
Yeah, sure. So everyone's in the startup field. As I mentioned earlier, this life or basically the startup life have a lot of uncertainty. Learn how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable situations and keep working one things at a time, right? One step at a time. And regarding reaching me out, you can always tag me or find me and on a LinkedIn, or you can send us emails, or you can reach out to our site, thesunflowerlab.com, and kind of put a message and someone kind of like respond to it, or you can directly find a way to reach me from our website as well. Just look for me and we'll find a way to connect back. But LinkedIn is a great way to send me a message, and very active on that. So feel free to do that.
Sweet. Thank you so much. I'll definitely be connecting with you.
Sure.
I learned a lot today, and I hope we get to talk to you again, and best of luck with crushing it the way you guys have been doing over there at Sunflower Lab. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big 3. A no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.